The word psychedelic still conjures up foggy flashbacks from the 60s, heavy guitar solos, whacked out hippies, and a very politicized and polarized response to hallucinogens, which coincidentally pushed them into the same classification as some of our most harmful drugs. But before all that, these drugs existed untainted by popular mythology as potentially very promising research tools.
Dr. David Dean is Assistant Director of a federally approved LSD therapy program.
Flash forward to the current decade, and psychedelics have made their way back into the laboratory, as the academic world starts to rediscover the potential that these drugs may have. And New Zealand is set to be leading the way, with the world's first LSD microdosing trial set to take place later this year. We spoke to Amadeus Diamond about the Entheos Foundation and his efforts to keep this psychedelic momentum going.
So the Entheos Foundation is New Zealand's first non-profit charity where all the funds that we raise go towards either funding clinical research using psychedelics in psychotherapy and anthropology in New Zealand. So you're looking at end-of-life anxiety, treatment-resistant depression and serious addiction syndromes are really the three areas that we want to press on. At the moment, the treatment-resistant depression is sort of at the top of the list because of its prevalence in mental health statistics, and particularly mental health statistics which focus on Māori and Pacifica populations.
For Amadeus, the Entheos Foundation's mission is a very personal one, as he has felt firsthand the transformative effects that these drugs can have.
In my teenage years and up into my early 20s, I was diagnosed with chronic depression, possible bipolar disorder, possible borderline personality disorder. I also had a 2.5-year heroin addiction, and then I was a problem drinker for a number of years after that. Since then, my use of psychedelics has immeasurably and completely ineffably improved my quality of life, and so I have a real passion to then share that potential with other people who find themselves in situations that I was once in.
Amadeus is optimistic that the Foundation will ease some of the burden of setting up this research. He explains that New Zealand has the perfect conditions to run these studies.
New Zealand's actually poised to be really important in terms of psychedelic research, and one of the reasons is our small population. So one of the things that you can't do very effectively in a country like the US, for instance, where you've got 350 million people, a sample size of 30 or 40 is not very representative. You can't extrapolate it very well. In New Zealand, we can use smaller sample sizes to actually make much wider extrapolations of the data.
Amadeus predicts that if we stay on the same trajectory and these studies show promise, that New Zealand is set to become a leader in psychedelic therapy.
One of the things that we do need to consider is that we could become a place where people are actually seeking psychedelic therapy in New Zealand. So we already have a little bit of this with ibogaine because we are one of only 3 countries where ibogaine is legal and on the books.
Dr. Suresh Muthukumaraswamy is one of New Zealand's leading experts in psychedelic research. He also theorises that New Zealand has the potential to become a psychedelic therapy hub.
I imagine how it would come out was that a certain type of clinician would get training and how to do this and how to do it effectively, and I imagine there'd be kind of little bespoke clinics where that kind of thing would happen. Because I can't imagine it would be very nice to do in a big hospital ward, right? So that's how I think it probably would eventuate if it were to get there.
It could have an impact on New Zealand's reputation as both a forward-thinking country and a country which, takes care of its people, even when that takes a bit of courage. Eyes are on New Zealand as sort of an incubation space at a petri dish to try new ways of approaching mental health and seeing if the results work in a small population. And I think people are going to be looking to us.